Welcome to the Sports Startup Digital Debate Competition, brought to you by Pitch Madness and in partnership with the Sports Biz Group. My name is Tyler Kelly, founder of Pitch Madness, and we're really excited to bring you another 2 opening round debates. We have some amazing founders and judges for you to listen and learn from as they square off head-to-head to debate various topics in the sports industry. But before we get underway, a big shout out to our team. First up, Nadal Harvey, studio engineer who has brought all this amazing content to life, and Nick Hayden, founder of the Sports Biz Group and my partner in crime in getting this project off the ground. Lastly, the main goal of this tournament is to support and promote the amazing founders competing and helping them connect to valuable resources and potential investment to get their company to the next level. Additionally, please support our Pledge It campaign, raising money for the CDP COVID-19 Relief Fund going to help frontline workers in the healthcare industry. We've already raised $2,000. Help us get to our next goal of $10,000. Donate whatever you can. Please hashtag #DebateForCovid to spread the word. All right, are you now ready to introduce our founders? This founder believes all professional and driven amateur athletes will begin monitoring their own performance and health data. This will be done by the athletes purchasing their own research-grade wearable sensor tools and analytics. Give it up for Quinn Sandler and Plantiga. This founder believes the medical and sports collaboration space is the biggest untapped market in the sports and fitness industry. Give it up for Partha, Anava, and Lasso. Thank you, founders, for those introductions. Let's kick it over to our head referee, Nick.
All right, welcome, founders. Let's get ready to debate. This is the Sweet 16 for the athlete performance and wearables category. We have 2 amazing founders ready to debate. To get started, we're going to flip a coin to determine who will kick off the first question. So, Partha, would you like heads or tails?
Tails.
Tails. It is heads. So, Quinn, would you like to receive the first question or would you like to defer?
I'll receive the first question.
All right. So, just remember, you'll each get an initial 45 seconds to answer your question, and then the other person gets another 45 seconds to answer their question uninterrupted, and then you guys can go back and forth and debate. Best of luck to you, and if you could put 10 minutes on the clock to get this started. Here's the first question. How would you stop established sporting goods and e-commerce players from releasing white label product versions of your own product? Quinn, and your answer is?
I don't think you could ever stop them, so I think you have to out-innovate them. So in my business specifically, you can't white label a product unless you have the data and have developed the insights from that data. So, it's what we like to think of a data moat around our little castle. So I don't think I can stop as a maker of sensor insoles with IMUs, with analytics and insights. I can't stop Nike. In fact, I guarantee you Nike, Under Armour, these companies probably have like 15 of these projects underway. What they don't have is they don't have the data that I've collected on pro teams, on athletes, on physical therapists. So I think what we have to do is continue to innovate and out-innovate those big incumbents, because technically this is not really their bread and butter. So they're kind of in R&D and they're not in market. So we're young, nimble, agile, and that's our difference.
Partha, would you agree or disagree?
So I agree on the premise of innovation. I think that's important as always to maintain the pace of innovation, but I think there's a couple other ways that you can prevent really other people stepping into your space from a product standpoint. And I think a big part of that comes down to branding. So branding is like that undefined moat that you always have, that, you know, even if I copy Coca-Cola's formula, people are still going to buy Coke. Regardless if it's the same product, people associate a level of trust to great branding. So that's a really, really core element when it comes to those types of situations, whether it's white labeling, whether it's people knocking you off. The other side of the coin is that all of these businesses, first of all, when you're a big business like that, you have a ridiculous amount of momentum in one direction. So it doesn't make sense to veer too much off course. That's why a lot of these bigger businesses go toward acquisition or licensing as opposed to directly knocking people off. But if a business like that wanted to get involved in a new tech play, for us, we really lean on the side of partnerships. So we keep a really thorough Rolodex within every major competitor, everybody we have. I mean, we're friends with them. We work with them. We make sure that we have that relationship. So if they want to get to our space, that phone call is coming to me.
Quinn, anything to counter on that?
Yeah, I can't imagine, like, the concept of brand. I cannot imagine if they wanted to. If, like, let's say Nike wanted to jump into our space, we're going to compete on brand, or Adidas or Under Armour. Your point on building friendships and partnerships makes total sense. I agree. But branding, no, I think you got to out-innovate outside that brand, because they're going to be able to pull in Lindsey Vonn and Tiger Woods. And, like, if they actually wanted to go into our space, they could fucking destroy us in brand. So no, I don't think that's the case. But yeah, I think you just gotta make something better. At the end of the day, you have to make something more valuable than what they can conceive of or deploy. So you gotta out-innovate. Yeah, that's me.
So you're correct from the standpoint of, yes, all of these brands have big athletes. They have Lindsey Vonn, they have Tiger Woods. We as a brand also have Tiger Woods who uses our product. We also have James Harden. We also have the former CMO of Adidas and CEO of Reebok on our team. So we made it a very, very big part of our business strategy to be right in the weeds there, so that it's too much of a conflict from a personal standpoint if there's a knockoff.
Fair enough, yeah. Same thing for us. Like, we have Andre DeGrasse, who's a sprinter, who's kind of with Puma and some other brands. So yeah, I don't disagree. The best thing is to be as complimentary, but like, as an example, let's say that they're going to buy us, right? They're going to buy us because they feel threatened, not because they like our tech. That's how acquisitions work. They don't work like, oh, I really like what you're doing. It's like, no, it's like, I feel threatened by you, so I'm going to come out and buy you. So yeah, anyways.
Completely with the fundamental point you're making. I would also say that there's a tremendous amount of potential upside from a partnership or licensing angle where, and something like, say, a white labeling, right? It's only bad if it's not with your own permission. In our space, stocks, a brand like Strideline has done a great job with their B2B licensing strategy. So these are all opportunities that can go both ways. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. And when those big brands call, I really do believe when you build the relationships the right way, they do call you first before they try to work around you. And if you're receptive to that and you have a plan as to how to deal with that inbound lead and really convert that into a source of revenue that can boost your brand in some way, you can take those opportunities and really spin them. So, I mean, I agree with everything you're saying in premise, from innovation and all that standpoint. Really my key piece is to reiterate that when you do take the time to build out great relationships within that space, it can be an advantage on top of everything else going on.
Yeah. Okay, we'll move on to the next question. So based off of your product and what you found success in, what is the best distribution strategy with the product into the sports industry? Is it B2B or B2C? And Partha, you'll start with that question.
Yeah, so I think that products fall into two categories. Either there's a predefined category for them or they're doing something completely new. And I believe that the strategy differs based on those two approaches. So if you're in a predefined category, you don't have to educate a consumer on why they need your product. You only have to explain why your product is the best compared to what other products they would buy for the same need. From that standpoint, a B2B and physical distribution strategy can be advantageous. In times like this, with COVID, with social distancing, obviously B2B is not a great way to launch a product in 2020, but it can be more advantageous when you have the shelf space. And the reason I say that is because in person, the differences between good and bad products is accentuated extremely strongly. But when you get online, that gets murky because you don't have touch, you don't have the visual right in front of you, and you don't have the ability to perceive vast differences in quality. When you get into the box of a product that's in its own category, the biggest burden that you have is education. You have to explain to people what this is for and why they use it. And so for a strategy like that, I feel digital is the best bang for your buck from an education standpoint to educate masses of people and very quickly identify the populations that resonate with the new technology that you're bringing to the market.
Yeah, so kind of to add to that from my perspective, B2B or B2C, B2C requires, 10, 15, $20 million. Like it's, you're dealing with just people that don't read, that don't pay attention. They might buy your stuff because it's more whimsical. B2B, you kind of fall under two categories. I'm selling you something that's going to make you money, or I'm selling something that's going to save you money. Whereas in a B2C is different motivation. I feel very strongly that B2B, especially for our company, and I would say a lot of people in our space, you're going to get more bang for your buck. You're going to get in at the top of the market. You're going to create kind of reference customers, but you're also not going to make money there. Like real money is in B2C, but that B2B kind of builds that rapport, gets you going, and also you have people that are motivated to use your product for different reasons. Like you sell into an NBA team, their athletic trainer wants to use stuff to make their player healthy. If you sell into a physical therapist, a sports med in some clinic, he wants to make money. They're just kind of driven by different motivations. Both are good, and to Partho's point, it kind of depends on kind of what you're trying to get after. But yeah, B2B for us at least has definitely been a good decision. More efficient.
Especially given the technology you guys have, it sounds like B2B would be a great way to roll that out into the market. Especially, again, I think this goes to the standpoint of educational complications and the end user of the product. For us, we're selling a product that's designed for the average person, right?
Yeah.
So we're about selling that out into the market. Number one, the thing that I've really enjoyed about the process is it's not as cost intensive as you might guess. For literally thousands to tens of thousands, you can vet and completely qualify and build a profitable model in a new market that can scale and produce profit in the first month. I mean, it's a really exciting prospect if you do it the right way. And that's where great partners, great talent, great understanding, and knowing how marketing works on a macro level for the direct-to-consumer model is so critical. So I think that, both strategies you can say the same thing about, but if you know how to do it well, it can be really cost-effective and really positive for your business. But I would agree with what Quinn says. It depends on what your goals are from the process. For some businesses, they want to build centers of trust right off the bat. And that sounds like it's a great plan for you guys. And for us, the way that we went about building trust was through going after a lot of customer reviews right off the bat, at the same time gathering data to understand where we fit well early.
Yeah.
And so help guide the B2B and partnership efforts down the line, because we saw those areas of resonance and we were able to identify, okay, this person who has this specific condition means if we go to, say, a physical therapist or a podiatrist, that they're going to be a good physical distribution point to get to that customer. So that's the way we've thought about it, but it has so much to do with price point, business goals, the exact target market and how broad that market is, and the use case of the product, whether it's a daily use item or specific moments, whether it's for performance, whether it's for rehab. I mean, there's so many factors that go into it. So I think it's a very personal decision of which path you should be going on.
And I think for both of us, not like we're supposed to agree on everything, but like the term I love is B2B to C, right? Like we're selling to businesses, but ultimately the touch point of that business to their population, like we've sold into a team and now selling to some of their athletes, right? Because they're not with the team, for 4 or 5 months a year. So it's interesting.
Well, that's all the time we have for this, but let's add some more time to the clock, and we're going to add an overtime question. So this will be more of a hypothetical. So given the current circumstances of everyone's quarantined and during this pandemic, if you were have to restart your brand from scratch and create a new product and create a new brand, what would be your go-to-market strategy given the current circumstances and your current limited resources? So Quinn, I'll let you start with that.
Well, we're kind of doing it now, but straight up remote monitoring. We live in a world where people are going to be collecting, in the world of human performance, sports science, people are going to be collecting data on themselves. And I think building products that allow people to collect kind of lab grade or research grade parameters like reactive strength and jumping and plyometrics and top speed, things like that, where they can do it on themselves at home on their own field without kind of needing to go through their coaches and that kind of B2B, but allowing them to collect on themselves and then share that data with their practitioner, their strength coach, or their athletic trainer. That's the focus that we feel ourselves shifting to now, with really, really good response and good uptake. So if I was to restart right now, I would make that our primary focus, is remote health monitoring or remote performance monitoring, and drive everything around that.
Your thoughts on that part, though?
Yeah, so I think COVID presents some interesting challenges. Markets have shifted tremendously from a buying behavior standpoint. So the typical products that may have succeeded in, I would say, the sports and fitness ecosystem are not succeeding as much anymore. And I don't want to go into any specific use cases, but many of the peer brands that we talk to on a day-to-day basis are seeing anywhere from 20 to 60% drop off in their revenue. And it's because whole customer bases have disappeared because of a lack of school sports, because of a lack of summer camps, because of a lack of so many different things that have become a foundation for the way of life they're accustomed to. So I think that the main pain point, I'm speaking just within the sports and fitness industry, the main pain point for the individual customer is, on a macro level, how can I stay healthy? How can I stay fit and find some sense of competition in this world where I'm not allowed to get within 6 feet of anybody I don't know? And I think that brands like Peloton, brands like Forte, FitPlan, those are 2 new startups that we love, are doing such a great job in terms of helping people connect and be in a shared ecosystem of fitness. If we were to restart what we're doing today, we would likely be creating just a pure brand with much less innovation involved, that's focused on partnering with as many of these streaming services as possible to shoot for brand exposure and one-on-one customer interaction. This is a period of time where ads are everywhere, but people are not using, when people are using social media, they're using it differently than they were before, right? The exposure times are much longer, the way conversions are happening, click-throughs are happening, even commerce in general is very different. So I feel that this is a period of time that revenue is not the key indicator of growth for a brand, especially because it is a temporary phenomenon. It'll last a year and the effects of it will last maybe 3 to 5 culturally, but they'll echo away. And so this is a period of time where, if played right, you can gain a tremendous amount of brand awareness and very, very deep personal connections with individual consumers in the sports and fitness world across the board that, if led into an innovative product launch in 2021, could be highly, highly fruitful and valuable. But I think now's a time for individual connection and less a time to focus on revenue. So that is, I think, the high level view of how I would look at things if I were to start today.
Great. Well, that's all the time we have there. It was a great debate on both of your ends. For all those listening, use the hashtag #DebateForCovid. Let us know who you thought that won that round. And now we're going to go on to the judges' analysis.
And let's introduce our judges. First up, Teddy Blank, principal at First Star Ventures. Next, Ryan McNeil, founder and CEO at Sports ID Inc. and member of the NFLPA. And lastly, Tracy DeForge, founder of The Players Impact. Let's kick it over to our head referee, Nick.
All right, that was an amazing debate between Quinn and Partha for the Sweet 16 in the Athlete Performance and Wearable section. And now we're going to move over to our judges for their analysis and picks. So to kick things started, Teddy, could you lead us with your analysis and your pick for this section?
Yeah, definitely. So I think this was really evenly matched. Both these guys clearly know their markets and their customers really well. I think the first question on the white label stuff, that's something every startup has to deal with, and answers will vary by market for sure. But I think here I would go with Quinn's answer of building a data moat about your customers, about performance, about the product, and using that to continue to out innovate. I think Partha's point about brand was interesting, but at the end of the day, a startup has no brand until you build it. And so relying on your brand versus, as Quinn mentioned, a Nike or someone like that can be really, really tough in those early days. The second question, I actually thought that Partha's answer here was really interesting and makes sense if you're kind of going from a team to an athlete perspective. You get those those KOLs, those key opinion leaders in the space, people who are really well respected, and using that as a way to get to the true end consumer, right? So the teams and the athletes are consumers, less so than maybe true businesses. But really interesting approach of getting your brand attached to somebody else's brand and using that to drive distribution. So I think I would actually give the second question to Partha there. And moving on to the last question about kind of how would you attack the current scenario? Again, really close and interesting answers, but I would go with Quinn here. I think the plan of really taking advantage of the one-to-one of fitness economy that's being built in the COVID world. I think having a referral flywheel of these fitness instructors or cyclists who are building these followings, and using that as not only a referral flywheel, but also like hey, let's train together. I'm using this product to track, my performance and my health and my legs. Let's train together. You have one, here's a referral code. We can use the same stats and metrics, kind of keep up with each other. So I think that is, something that is going to that'll stick around. I think, finding a fitness instructor you love on the internet because you have to do it during COVID is one thing. I think it's a totally different thing after the world returns to some semblance of normal. But I do think that those one-to-one connections will stick. That's an emotional thing. It's not just kind of functional physical. So I think, at the end, I got to go with Quinn here. It was really close, but I got to give the dub to Quinn. I'm really interested to try out both products, and we'll potentially be placing a quarantine order here pretty soon.
Thank you for that, Teddy. So, Quinn, you have 1 out of the 3 votes, and now we're going to move over to Ryan for your analysis and pick.
I looked at things a little differently than Teddy. I thought Quinn made a great point about having a data moat, inch wide, mile deep, that other bigger companies can't replicate. But I do believe in Partha's idea and concept of partnerships versus competition. I'm a firm believer you can do things faster, quicker, easier with partners. Maybe not necessarily the ones who want to white label you, but the ones that are competition on your level. It moves you along faster. Love Quinn's idea of being the innovator and out innovating bigger companies because, as he mentioned before, they move forward. They move a little slower, and being a startup, you have that nimbleness and quickness to adjust and what I call micro pivot. Didn't understand at all what the hell Partha was talking about out branding a Nike, a Reebok, or Adidas. I'm like, that's to Teddy's point, you can't do that. Not being a startup, because no one knows who the hell you are, and so I didn't understand that question at all. I love Quinn's philosophy around B2B. Find the motivation. You're gonna approach them to allow them to make more money or save them money. I thought that was classic and easily understood. Partha's response about being a B2C and understanding that, I thought made a lot of sense as well. I wanted Quinn to talk about the long-term outlook of his product and solution, right? There's a lot of technology being infused in sports. There's a lot of data already that exists that no one's going to, no one's evaluating now, no one's analyzing now, just sitting there. And so he's bringing another solution to add more data to those teams, organizations who haven't done a good enough job of analyzing the data they already have. So I thought that was kind of interesting. He has to find a way to get around that obstacle. For Partha, I thought he didn't talk about the health benefit of his product, being a compression sock. The number one injury in sports, especially youth sports, is sprained ankle. He didn't talk about that at all, right? He didn't talk about the options of colors. I'm assuming that eventually he'll have different colors for his product. Right now, it's only black and white. But I think that high schools, youth sports, collegiate teams, pro teams, you have to have, as you elevate in the sports space, you have to have a certain look and feel. Otherwise, you'll be fine. And so I think, once he gets to the point he can buy those licenses, he can license NFL, NBA licensing to his product. I think that will solve that problem. But he didn't talk about the health benefit at all. I thought both understood their market quite well. I thought both understood their products quite well. And they really understand their product market fit in the ecosystem. But I vote for Partha and Lasso by a very small margin, because I think he has a lighter lift to scale really, really fast over Quinn.
Ryan, thank you for that in-depth analysis there. So right now we actually have a tiebreaker, 1 vote for Quinn, 1 for Partha, and we're on to the last judge. So Tracy, you are in the hot seat to decide who will go to the next round. So Tracy, could you please provide your analysis and pick for this section?
Yeah, sure. So I took a completely different approach and went a little bit more academic. Intentionally did not know a lot about each of their products, and don't think that this debate for me was about whose company was better. To me, it was about looking at the founder and their approach to their market, to their approach to their business in general. So on the first question, and I will also say that what a great debate. Super smart founders would be excited to invest in either of them. But going through the analysis, question number 1, Quinn's passion and just a flat out, that's innovation. That's how you beat anybody. You innovate. You're on top of your game. Didn't necessarily agree with Partha's approach to friending the big brands, because at the end of the day, those brands are not your friends. They will they'll partner and take your idea and run with it if it makes sense to the bottom line, no matter how friendly they seem. I guess on the second side of things, on the second one, both really good answers that I think meet their specific needs. I would go with the consistency behind Partha's answer on that one. He was consistent, had good examples. I think overall in the overtime question, these guys, they both have really good positions. I had to go, although I love the passion and energy that Quinn brought to the table, Partha had some really thoughtful experience behind his answers. And so at the end of the day, the tiebreaker goes to Partha.
Great. Well, that was an amazing analysis by all of you. Congratulations, Partha. You just got a ticket to the Elite 8. Congratulations to Quinn. That was a great debate on your end. That wraps up the Sports Startup Sweet 16 round for the Athlete Performance and Wearables. Now we're on to the next round. But Brian, Teddy, Tracy, thank you all for that great analysis.
Welcome.
This founder believes the world of sports will experience many changes in the next 10 years. He believes that to protect the health and well-being of athletes, team-sanctioned on-field practice time will reduce by 15 to 20% by the year 2025. All the way from the best coast, Jason Robinson and Playbook 5. This founder believes IoT will fundamentally change the way we do fitness and will not just lead to solutions that count reps and steps. All the way from Amsterdam, give it up for Stefan Weiss and Staffer.
Hi, I'm Stefan, the co-founder of Straffer. Straffer is the first smart resistance band and training platform that makes working out simple, effective, and personalized. Our patent-pending technology featuring unique expandable sensors makes working out smarter and simpler than ever before. Unlike traditional resistance bands, Straffer provides you with live action feedback and exercise guidance via our app to make sure your workout counts.
Thank you, founders, for those introductions. Let's kick it over to our head referee, Nick.
All right, founders, let's get ready to debate. We are in the Sweet 16 for the Athlete Performance and Wearables section. To get started, we'll flip a coin to determine who will kick off the first question. So, Jason, would you like heads or tails?
We'll go with tails.
Tails. It is tails. So, would you like to receive the ball or defer?
I'll defer to the second half of the question.
Great. So, Stefan, you're going to have 45 seconds to answer the original question. And then, Jason, you'll follow. You'll have your 45 seconds to counter. And then you can go back and forth with the dialogue. Best of luck to you. If the referee, we could get 10 minutes on the clock. And here's our first question. With athletes' training habits and routines being disrupted under quarantine, what is the best course of action that athletes should take to remain in peak performance with limited resources?
Yeah, cool question. So I think like two things are the key to that question. One is the physical ability, to improve the physical ability the athlete has, in my opinion, and that's what I have experienced over time. Track his performance and also his progress, to kind of keep focused on his goals, because you can't measure what you can't improve when you're throughout a process. And also you have to focus on the mental part of the game. So really focusing on the mindfulness and more of a psychological part is really key to kind of take this current situation without competitions and games, to kind of get prepared psychological for the next challenges coming up.
Jason, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think if athletes want to keep their competitive edge over the coronavirus stay-at-home orders, I think what they first need to do is create a goal and a vision for how they see themselves performing when they do get back on the field. From there, they can start to face the realities that we're all facing under stay-at-home orders, and start to explore the options that they have at their disposal for bringing them closer to that vision they have on themselves. Ultimately, the way forward is going to be for athletes to adopt new tools, new methodologies, and new ways of experiencing and learning the game in order to become their best version of themselves. So at the end of the day right now, yes, we are at a loss of resources, we're at a loss of face time, but athletes are still going to be expected, and they're going to want to perform at a high level when competition does resume.
Stefan, anything to counter on that?
Yeah, I do get the overall picture with the vision of like what yourself or what kind of goals you set. I like that, but I think it's all more on the part of to kind of discipline yourself, to kind of set yourself really hard quantitative goals, and keep with those goals and measure yourself against that, because I think that's an athlete has to do it himself, and the best athletes do that, like Cristiano Ronaldo in soccer, are really pushing themselves to the limit. And I think that's where like really world stars are kind of separated from the rest at the end of the day. And I don't think it's that much vision, but like pushing yourself to the edge and measuring yourself up against goals that you set yourself in this situation right now.
Anything to add to that, Jason?
No, well, I agree. I think that obviously athletes do have to have goals and make sure that they're tracking the metrics. I think the tough thing right now, what we're up against, is most athletes are at home. So it's hard to measure yourself up against anyone else, which is normally the case when you're playing in a highly competitive environment. You know, you have your teammates, you have your players, you may have other people that you're engaging with that can help you gain that extra edge. And obviously right now, is we're all alone in our homes, I think athletes are going to have to really focus on what they want to see themselves as, and not focus so much outward, but more inward on what they want to get out of their experience. But other than that, I mean, I agree with what Stefan said, and ultimately we're saying the same thing, which you got to have a goal and you got to have a plan.
All right, on to the next question. What is the best distribution strategy for sports tech hardware products? Is it business to consumer or business to business? If you could please provide some insight maybe on the products that you guys produce and how that pertains to your stance on that question.
Is it my turn?
Correct.
Okay, cool. So we have invented a smart resistance band. So it's a really portable tool that tracks your performance while doing resistance bands training. And we have asked ourselves that same question, going B2B, where it's obviously you have a whole different approach to B2B than to B2C. I think that really depends on which kind of business model you have and which kind of problems you solve. What comes down for us, it's like a broader picture actually, to kind of go like, where's the hardware business going? And I think there's a lot of stuff going on right now in the subscription-based models, where a lot of hardware companies go from only subscription and hardware sales to more subscription sales, to kind of lower their customer acquisition costs and also improve their customer lifetime value.
Jason, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think it really is dependent upon what your product and service is offering, right? And who your initial stakeholder is. For a company like us working with virtual reality, and what I would call and most would call a high-tech solution, it's really tough for us to go after a B2B model with people who, quite frankly, right now we're seeing around the world are having issues just setting up Zoom calls at home for their kids. So for us, you know, the best path, or the path of least resistance rather, is for us to go direct to consumer, put the technology in the hands of people that know how to use it, for one, and also will appreciate the features and the benefits more. So, you know, by going direct to consumer, we put ourselves in a position to have the most impact, but also simultaneously we significantly reduce the adoption cycle that it takes for a user to get to that happy place in the user journey.
Anything else to add, Stefan?
I mean, in the end of the day, I think the last question or the last thing that Jason said was really like, how fast can you get these customers to kind of get that wow moment, that to pull them into your product and say like, hey, this is the solution you need. On the other hand, obviously, like on the B2B side, if you're going to, for example, physiotherapists or professional trainers and stuff, they can obviously endorse your product to a broader range of people. The question is obviously, do you solve the problems that physiotherapists have currently, or the professional sports person, athlete, and so on? Or are you solving the consumer, the end consumer's problems actually, and should directly go to them? So this is also our approach, to directly go to the customer and solve their current pressing issues.
All right, on to the next question. So how will the coronavirus affect the sports wearable industry, and any type of bold, interesting insight that you might have on how we can kind of all rebound from this? So how do you think it will impact it, and then what's your bold prediction on how to kind of maintain growth in the industry?
The behavior of the consumer is changing like from one day to the other. Like we see this, people are training at home. They are desperately searching for fitness solutions that they can do anywhere, like at home or on the road or at work. Obviously, they can't do it right now, but you see a dramatic change of consumer behavior. And I don't think, and study has already been establishing this kind of view that this is going to change within the last 2, 3 or 4 or 5 years. So we will see a dramatic change there, and we also will see a dramatic change in the B2B world, because companies kind of wake up and say like, hey, what's going on there? We can't always be in close contact with our customers. So how do we get all this content that we have online and solve problems of the consumers?
Jason, would you agree or disagree with that?
A little bit of both. I think that, obviously the sports wearables industry is important as it focuses on player performance, but I just think the sports technology industry as a whole is going to be reshaped by the impact of coronavirus. I think we're going to see sports technology transition from what some would call a nice to have industry to now a must have industry. I would correlate it to the medical space where, for a time there were still a lot of people who were keeping their records in file cabinets, and then all of a sudden every medical company and every hospital had to adopt and become a tech company essentially. We're going to see that same kind of growth and impact happen here in the sports market. And I think what it creates is an opportunity for companies like Playbook 5 or companies like Stratford to be able to, one, prove themselves and solve real problems that people are facing today. Like, this is going on right now. People are losing money, people are losing reps, people are losing time right now. So being able to serve those problems today, but also it will create an environment where sports technology companies can accelerate their growth a little bit faster than normal, because everyone is facing these problems. It's not just the pro teams, it's not just your elite colleges, it's everyone down from a 7v7 flag football team onto an intramural adult team. So I think it's going to create more opportunity for all of our companies.
All right, well, that's 10-minute mark, but we actually do have some time for an overtime question. So if you could add some more time to the clock. So final question would be, well, what is your prediction? Will consumers expect new products, or are you going to find integrations with existing products? What's the future if you had to pick a side? New products is the way, or integrations with existing hardware and products? I'll let you start with that, Jason.
Yeah, so this is something that we're tracking closely. One of our advisors is currently working at Fitbit, and we try to keep an eye on what they're doing on the data presentation side. And I think what we're going to see is people are going to want to see their data in one spot. I mean, it's easier on the consumer. It's a lot more, yes, you want to get up and check your things, but you don't want to check in 20 different places for 20 different data points. Anybody that can bring that data to one spot, I think, is going to be serving their end user. And for us, we envision a world where Playbook 5, where potentially an athlete is taking the badges that they earned from studying on Playbook 5 and showcasing that data on their recruiting profile, to show to a scout or a recruit. And also, we're envisioning a world where coaches will have one single dashboard where they can see all the analytics tied to their players' preparation and on-field performance.
Stefan, agree or disagree with that?
So I would say, yes, the ideal setup would be a platform, obviously, where everything is in one place and you have access to the information that you need at that certain time. Well, we see that we've had so many platform kind of solutions that the consumer actually didn't really adapt to it, because there were just too many functionalities that were kind of like messy in one space and weren't as clear to the consumer as it should have been. So I think it's neither one or the other. It's kind of like the way in between. How can you integrate key information that with your product that the consumer needs, or that adds to the customer experience in the end of the day, where he does get a benefit out of it. So I think it's a tough call up, but I would say it's not the platform kind of style, one size fits all, but more like how can you add to your product and develop from there.
Anything to add to that, Jason?
Yeah, I do actually. So he raises a good point with in regards to just everything being on one space. But one thing I'll also encourage us all to think about is all of our companies, we're specializing in delivering a product and a service that may not be data presentation. It may not be data analytics per se. Yes, we collect data. Yes, we are using the data to improve our users' experience, but the amount of time that it could take us to actually figure out how to present this data the best way to a user, it could potentially move companies, younger companies, startups, people like what we're talking about right now, a little bit off our roadmap. And that can become problematic because I think we have to ask ourselves, like, why is the user coming to you? Like, at the end of the day, are they coming to get this experience? Are they coming to get better and improve their performance, or are they coming to you to study their data? If they're not coming to you to study their data, then I think it would make more sense to put that data on platforms where they are already going in search of it. I think about like Huddle's a great example of a company that, you know, is using data to track their players' in-app performance. And if people are already going there, then let's not give them one more hurdle to jump through to get to that wow moment that we mentioned earlier.
Great. Well, that's all the time we have for that. For all those listening, use the hashtag #DebateForCovid. Let us know who you think won that round. Gentlemen, great debate, and thank you. We'll see you for the judges preview right now.
And let's introduce our judges. First up, Andre Flulellen, founding member of Beyond the Game Network. Next, Garrett Dickerson, philanthropist and American football tight end for your New York Giants. And lastly, Yanni Hofnagel, founder and CEO of Lemon Perfect, cold-pressed lemon water. Lemons never tasted this good. Let's kick it over to our head referee, Nick.
All right, well, that wraps up an amazing debate between Stefan and Jason. And now we're going to be on to the judges for their analysis and picks. So to lead off this analysis on the athlete performance and wearable section, we'll have Andre provide his insight and picks on this one.
All right, so here we go. All right, so this one was a close one. It's an unfortunate close one. It reminds me, like, you know, when you're neck and neck, dude. It's like Seabiscuit running against the Secretariat. Like, it's that close. And so as I went yesterday, I said something. I said, look, when it's that close, it always depends on which answer I hate the most, more so than which answer I like the most. All right. And so I heard Jason, and everything that Jason said in the first answer was like really, really spot on. Second answer was Stefan. He was spot on in his second answer, but the bonus question is what killed it for one of the guys, because one of the guys didn't answer the question. And that's the thing. That's what drives me crazy, because the question was like, is things right now, especially with COVID, is it going to be more of things that have already been implemented in place to be reintroduced, or is it going to be brand new total things? And Stefan didn't answer the question. I wanted Stefan to win, or Stefan, if I'm saying it wrong, my bad. Stefan or Stefan? Stefan, my bad, Stefan. I wanted you to win, but the last question, you didn't answer the question. You only gave your point of view. And the reason why that's a big deal, because as a startup founder and as a VC, you know, I'm a VC myself. Like, I want to understand or make sure that the founder can solve the actual problem, right? And not just solve a problem, but the actual problem. So to be able to answer the actual question that was introduced, right, it's a real big deal in terms of, for, you know, from a VC or from looking at a startup founder who can get the job done. So you had all the answers, man. You did everything right leading up to that last question. I wanted you to win so bad, but because you didn't answer the question, man, that's why I had to give it to Jason. My bad, dude.
All right, well, that's one vote for Jason. And Andre, another great commentary. Keep up the great work with that. Now we'll move on to the next pick. So we have Garrett Dickerson. Could you please provide your analysis and your pick on this section?
Right. So I think Andre said it best when it was really neck and neck, and it really did come down to kind of some of the finer details within each question. In that first question, I do agree with Andre. Off the bat, Jason had a great pitch right there, and I do really feel like having a plan throughout this quarantine really will set you up for what you want and need to do. So I really did like Jason's question off the bat. Going into that next one about the distribution, I think everybody's different. You know what I'm saying? You got to look at your company and what you think is best for you. So I feel like, however you decide to distribute your equipment is kind of how you see fit. So I didn't really side with either person on that one. Just kind of figured that whatever was best for whichever company is really what's best for them. Then kind of going on to question that last bonus question, it's kind of like Andre, but I mean, personally, I didn't necessarily agree with either side. I kind of thought that being a consumer and someone that really does use these products in their everyday life, that a new product isn't necessarily something that I'm looking for. I feel like we are creatures of habit, and we are people that are inevitably gonna go back to what we know and what we are comfortable with. So I did kind of feel like a new product and something that you have to relearn isn't necessarily something that will really have such a great impact in the long run. Yes, it might right now because we're in quarantine and you have time to, try new things and experiment with new things. But I feel like once this is all up, people are creatures of habit and are inevitably going to go back to what they know. So, all in all, with that being said, I also had to go with Jason. Congratulations, Jason. I thought you had a great pitch. I just thought that you kind of identified a little bit better with me and kind of laid things out for me a little bit better. But, it was a great competition. Both contestants did fantastic, but inevitably I had to go with Jason.
Thanks for that, Garrett. And that means, Jason, you just got a ticket to the Elite Eight. Congratulations. So before we move on, we still have a final judge. So Yanni, if you wouldn't mind providing your brief analysis on this round and your vote, just to give some more feedback to the founders.
What a great debate. Really good job by both Jason and by Stefan. Awesome back and forth. Ultimately, I give my nod to Jason, although it was very, very close. I liked how Jason answered the question about athletes remaining in peak performance through this period of uncertainty that we're going through. The idea of adapting new tools to work on their game while being at home was great. Really talking about how they see themselves performing when they get back on the court or on the field. I thought that was really well articulated. Nice job, really nice job there. Moving forward, into the conversation deeper about the impact of COVID-19. I really liked how Jason talked about sports technology is now a must-have. And the idea of medical records and doctors' offices now having fully transitioned to an electronic database was really well put as it pertains to new technologies now infiltrating the sports world, and he sees the same type of growth. I will say that Stefan had a really good answer there, and that fitness solutions now have to be for an anywhere opportunity, right? Fitness solutions that can be done anywhere and great customer experience. As it pertains to distribution, I actually, the truth is I probably would have liked both Jason and Stefan to talk a little bit more about B2B business, right? I mean, Playbook 5 to me has a massive opportunity with college football coaches, high school football coaches. Why wouldn't we try to sell the product into an Alabama or to Florida or a Clemson, right? That to me seems like a really attractive opportunity. And I would say, Stefan, the same way. I mean, again, as we start to see a return from the dislocation that we've seen in gyms and fitness studios and that sort of thing, why wouldn't we try to sell the Stratfor into your fitness studios and your gyms? That seems natural. So, I would say that I like direct-to-consumer businesses, of course, but it seems like both of these products could certainly have a B2B component. Net, great debate. I like Jason's energy, and just probably he gets a slight nod here, but really, really awesome job by both contestants, and we wish them the absolute best of luck as they go and scale their businesses forward.
Got it. Well, thank you for that, Yanni. And Jason, congratulations. Great fought out debate right there. Andre, Garrett, and Yanni, I appreciate all the feedback that you're able to give the founders. And congratulations. We're going to be on to the next round for the Elite 8.
Thanks for tuning in tonight. Hope you had some fun and learned a few things. Check back in with us tomorrow night at 5 p.m. Eastern Time for some more founder debate action, as well as every night this week at that same time. You can also follow the live bracket on the Pitch Madness website to see how founders progress throughout the tournament, as well as please continue to support our Pledge It campaign so we can raise money for the CDP COVID-19 Relief Fund, going again to support those frontline workers in the healthcare industry. Have a great evening. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks.